Hi, good evening, folks. Welcome to this week's edition of the Minority Report. I'm Marlon David, your host, and indeed always a pleasure coming here in studio with you and coming into your homes, getting into your living rooms, having this time where we share with your family members, your friends, relatives, and so on. And just, being able to come together as a family on a Tuesday evening and sit and discuss a number of things pertaining to the well-being and the welfare of Tobago. And this evening, the Minority Report is going to be no different. We continue to be committed to providing you, the general public, with the facts, providing you with the opportunities to acquire information. That is something that we hold very dear to ourselves in terms of what we provide. At no point in time do we ever come here, sit and have conversations or provide you, the public, with anything that is false, that can be questioned. We continue to do the research. We continue to present the facts. And on every occasion, the intention is simply to have you with the opportunity to make informed decisions. This week is no different, and as many of you would know, what is currently in the air is the budget conversation. A lot happening in the public domain. We know right now at the cabinet, in the parliament, we have the ongoing budget debate, which is scheduled to go probably for the rest of this month in particular, before the debate ends. And so even as that debate is raging in Trinidad, a number of conversations having been started right here in Tobago, and we would have started a particular conversation last week, and again tonight would be no different as we continue to bring to you the information that some of us may not be readily be able to acquire. And so you can always count on us at the Minority Report to provide you with the facts, provide you with what is current, what is trending, and what is going to give you enough to be able to sit with your family, sit with your friends, your co-workers, and have meaningful discussions on the trajectory, development or otherwise, that Tobago is currently on. Before we actually get into those conversations this evening, it indeed is always a pleasure to identify the various platforms that we are currently using and can be viewed on. If you are not able to log on to one, you can log on to the Tobago Updates website. Just type in Tobago Updates, www.tobagoupdates.com, and you're going to see our website pulled up. If you can get onto that, you can type in Tobago Updates on YouTube, and you will definitely see the live channel emerging. Or you can log into the Tobago Updates Facebook page, and this is the platform that many of us find more user-friendly, because it gives you the opportunity to be able to comment and to follow and to actually be a meaningful part of the conversation. Let me also put in the information that we had a slight shake-up about a week ago where there was some issues with the Facebook page. However, that has been rectified, and we now see the page back up and running, Tobago Updates Facebook page, and a lot of information available now, and you having the opportunity to simply log in and be a part of the conversation. You can also log into channel 102 if you are a Amplia subscriber, and get in on the action in the comfort of your living room, have your children sit on the ground, your friends, your relatives, and so on. Come in and be a part of this most important discussion this evening. I want to encourage those of you who are already logged in to really make the effort this evening to encourage your friends and so on, others, to be a part of this conversation. It's important that we all come to the table and sit and have these meaningful discussions, so that at the end of the day, none of us are walking around without information, and this information can be shared. We can all become agents of information that is truthful, information that is honest, as we find ourselves moving around and interacting during the day. So this evening, I want you to get in touch with those who you know would be interested. If you are in the diaspora, I know the link has already begun to be shared around. Persons have been messaging, asking for the link, even out in the diaspora, and I know it's already making its rounds. So we're going to go to a short break. We're going to pay some bills, and when we get back, we have a few congratulations that are definitely in order, and then we're going to see ourselves going into this evening's discussions. So stay locked on, and we'll be right back.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes for breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti, served with chokers, bull joil, and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie, and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads, and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules, or if you are having a cooking day off.
Tell them I can't do even bother calling me. Tell them I can't. I said tell them I can't do even bother calling me. Tell them.
I don't get that. They follow me money back as long as one on my head. They say too much, one thing to kill you, so what everybody had a dead. Don't knock it until you try it. Rum sweet.
Attention soldiers, are you ready for the ultimate mission for Tobago Carnival? It's time to gear up for Army Fed Operation Rocks Glow.
I feel like I run in tongue again. No place like home.
We're taking the vibes out to the countryside, where a premier cast of live entertainment will be pumping all night long. Army Fed Operation Rocks Glow. Join us on Thursday, 24th October at the Sid Gray Sporting Complex, Roxborough, for the high-energy Wear White Soca Bashment Rocks Glow. Army Fed Tobago. Operation Rocks Glow.
Yes, folks, and we are back in studio, and let me go right into introducing. Joining me here this evening is none other than Assemblyman Kelvon Morris, Minority Leader of the Tobago House of Assembly. How are you this evening?
I had a pretty long day. Good evening, Maryland. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, our loyal viewers who are always tuned in online, and I know those chat box probably going very busy at this time. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Minority Report, where we discuss the issues important to you and have the conversations. And here is where you continue to be informed, continue to present you with the facts, so that you can carry the discussions in your homes and wherever the business of Tobago is being discussed.
Minority Leader, there's so much for us to treat with this evening. But before we actually get into the meat of the matter, there are two things I wanted to highlight. First of all, I want to congratulate the TTPS, a major seizure yesterday of both drugs and a quantity of ammunition. Now, my concern with ammunition is always where there's ammunition, there are firearms. And every one round of ammunition that we get off the street is a life that has been saved. So, I really want to commend the TTPS. We've been seeing a lot ramping up. Now we have new postings in Tobago, and we definitely have begun to see some sort of turnaround.
But I think, and yes, of course, I want to join with you in commending the officers. Oftentimes there's a lot that is said about the police and what is not being done properly. But when we get results like this, they ought to be commended. And we know it's not very easy. Who is in the kitchen feels the heat.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very easy for us on the outside to criticize. But we know the officers, we have the majority of them are committed officers, and we appreciate the work that they are doing. And it's not just simply, it is not restricted to Tobago. You're seeing, especially with the onboarding of this new Minister of National Security, a renewed effort in crime fighting that is even more, it's smart policing. You're seeing a lot of actions that are bearing fruit both in Trinidad and Tobago, and the minister as well has to be commended. I'm very impressed with this joint army patrol, the coordinated, integrated army and police effort that you're seeing across the country where the hotspots are, and the intention to keep that going is something I commend. And I think that is what the population wants to see. The population wants to see a response that is deliberate, that is consistent, and puts the criminals on the back foot. For too long, the criminals, they have been in a very comfortable position, running mayhem and havoc amongst us when they are in the minority.
Correct.
The reality is the criminals are in the minority, but they are the ones that for some time, they have been really taking control of both the streets and doing what they want. So I'm really happy to see this renewed effort in crime fighting, and we're seeing slowly but surely we're seeing some results, and we want to continue to encourage our law enforcement officers to keep up the good work.
And moving to some more jovial news, I want to congratulate our very own Beverly Ramsey Moore. There's a story behind this. I had the opportunity to look at an interview of a gentleman who was speaking to a group of members of Trinbago, and he was trying to rally Trinbago against what he called the tyranny of Beverly Ramsey Moore, and it goes to speak. She won by a landslide, which says that the greater are those who were for her than the few that were against her, and it was really, really something. And I liken this onto a lot of what we see even in our realm, our neck of the woods, persons who coming out and they are the naysayers. But there are so many people who are listening to the positives in the messages, and we saw what she did for Trinbago.
And another thing, sometimes, as the good old saying goes, performance beats old talk. And there's no dispute, no discounting the work and the transformation
Yes,
that Beverly
definitely.
Ramsey Moore has brought to the Pan Trinbago organization. She met that organization in shambles, in debt,
Yep.
and found a model to find a way to make Pan a consistent part of our very existence, to the point now that finally Pan has found its rightful place in Trinidad and Tobago as the official national instrument of the country, and it's now going to, the government has gone even further to indicate that it would also be represented on our coat of arms. And all that will come about by the work of Beverly Ramsey Moore. And you know, this is a daughter of Tobago that in whom all of us should be proud.
Yeah.
You know, and it is amazing. You know, sometimes they say, well, in this case, a queen has no honor in her own land, and the people, well, at the level of the country, she has been welcomed to use her skills, her managerial skills, to transform an organization like that. And it's just a pity that perhaps while she was being used at TPAT before, she's no longer there right now.
Yeah.
But more than that, I also want to, because it's been a fantastic couple weeks for her. She was also awarded a national award as well. So it's really pleasing to see that, you know, the country is taking note of our work. And we in Tobago, I mean, I'm sure I can speak for the vast majority of Tobagonians. We are indeed very proud of the achievements of Beverly Ramsey Moore, and we wish her the very best in her 4-year tenure as the president of Pan Trinbago, and we look forward to her continuing the great work to which she has started.
Yes, indeed. And another 4 years, if she would have done what she accomplished in the first 4, think of what, with the support, the additional support that Pan Trinbago is going to be receiving from the government. I think the sky is the limit. Minority Leader, we want to switch up a bit now, and as I indicated in the beginning, the conversation about the budget is raging. We know we have the budget debate taking place in the parliament right now in Trinidad, but a number of other conversations have been sparked in Tobago. And last week we began on the program telling Tobagonians to be careful of what you listen to, what you hear, the smoke screens. We know that quite a lot is being said and rambled over. But the simple question we began to ask last week was, tell us where $7.5 billion was spent. And to really get into that conversation this evening, we have a short clip of what the now Chief Secretary would have said in a time when he was not in the seat of authority. So, Mr. Director, could you take us into that clip, please?
Oh, how are you going to achieve that? Where the money coming from?
And that's why we have to get creative and use first we have to start with properly managing what we have for zero. That's the first step. If it is we have $264 million for development expenditure, it means that we cannot afford to build one building that costs almost $1 billion. It means that we cannot afford the gargantuan costs of corruption. It means that we cannot afford to not follow procurement rules. It means we cannot afford to only go into business with a few favored sons and daughters. It means that we have to have transparent governance that involves a wide range of people coming to the table.
What we're calling on is transparency. The problem the problem we have faced over the last 3 years is management. Because I want to remind Tobagonians that when the Chief Secretary was in the minority, and Secretary at the time, Joel Jack, presented a budget of $4 billion. It was the then minority member, who is now Chief Secretary, who said to the Assembly, the problem is not money. You're asking for too much. These are the words that came from the then minority who are now in government, you know. They were the ones who said, you're asking for too much. You're going cap in hand, you're begging. We need to do things differently. the problem is not the money, the problem is management. So now that you are in office, you are now saying the problem is money. Right. How do you account for that?
Minority leader, I know you're very familiar with this.
So I've come to realize that there's a serious sickness in the executive of this current administration, and it's called foot-and-mouth disease. If you evaluate for this week, we were able to openly show and demonstrate to Tobagonians that what the current administration and their speakers, what they said, the things they told Tobagonians to get into office, they have abandoned those things and they are doing completely opposite. So you hear the Chief Secretary here, making a strong case, sounds really good, and you would agree with almost everything he had there to say in terms of how you manage and what you should do and what you shouldn't do. But you know what is the sad thing, Tobagonians? Everything the Chief Secretary pointed out then in the minority, when you decided to give him a chance, believing that he would do differently, that same Chief Secretary turned around and did worse. And I'll point it out because he's telling you that if the issue is not about money, it's really about management, and therefore, if you are managing scarce resources, then you have to be prudent with your decisions. So if you have a development budget of $200 or $300 million, you will not take that $200 or $300 million and decide to expend all of them on emergency roads, and especially in a case where the expenditure of those roads aren't recirculating and repopulating in the Tobago economy. You took every cent of that expenditure and you gifted that very expenditure to persons outside of Tobago. And therefore, what you did there in one flow is basically cripple the Tobago economy. And more than that, you talked about corruption. Because he talked about corruption. But when you subvert a procurement process to clearly create an outcome where persons didn't have to go through a thorough procurement process, all they did, you told them basically they sent in a quote, and you had a situation as in the road where one day the person sent in a quote, and by the next day that person got a contract. That is corruption.
And the next day mobilize.
And the next day they mobilize on spot to start the work. That is corruption. And then you talk about a few people getting, as to try to train up Tobagonians that in the past there were few people getting, but at least the persons who were getting, they were Tobago-based contractors who were being we are ensuring that they build capacity so Tobagonians can do the work that Tobago needs. And it will mean that what is circulating in terms of jobs, in terms of purchase of hardware material, in terms of rental of equipment, all of that was happening right within the Tobago economy. What you did though, you went to South and you found some favored contractors down there, a handful of them, very few. You lied to us. You told us you had a bag of over 40 contractors. And when we asked you to produce the evidence of the 40 contractors, that was whittled down to a handful of contractors. And all of them being from outside of Tobago with addresses mainly from South Trinidad. So, and you criticize those actions. But those are the very same actions that you have now come and committed unto the people of Tobago. So that is hypocrisy. It is dishonesty and disingenuity. And that is what we have seen from this current administration. And, you know, I listened to a number of their speakers because they aren't only coming out, they're sending their proxies. Many of them, we will demonstrate to you why some of them are singing so loud. Because the evidence is there, but time is longer than twine. Right? So that would come out. But many of them, they are trying to change the conversation.
Yes.
This administration does not want to account for the $7.5 billion that they have wasted.
Correct.
That is the reality. So, not wanting to account for what they received, they are now trying to carry us down a rabbit hole of having a conversation about what they should get.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversation is not about accounting for what I received, but let us talk about what I should get.
Should be getting.
And that is the conversation they want in the Tobago space. When, if you're being honest, what they are getting is no different or no worse than what anybody in the past received. And as a matter of fact, it is actually more favorable. So therefore, we have a situation to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, because the general allocation remains in terms of percentage about the same. So the PNM in the past would have gotten about 4.34 around there.
Yeah.
They are getting about same amount. The PNM in the past would have gotten about 300 and something million in development. They have received about the same amount in development. So what we have now is a situation where we have an opportunity to compare who managed what they got better. And that is the reality. That is the conversation we should be having. Who did more or who did better with what they got? It's not about trying to, because the reality is we all have experienced different administrations in Trinidad at the central government level, and the results have always been the same. Didn't matter who was there, whether it's PPP, UNC, PNM, NER. It has all been the same. So therefore, the conversation, if you really want to do the comparison, is who did better with what they got. And the PNM record is there for all to inspect and to account for. And therefore, we have to, and we must not let these jokers off the hook. And we must hold them accountable for the $7.5 billion that they would have managed in 3 years. And I continue to ask Tobagonians to answer this question honestly. After 3 years and $7.5 billion, have your life improved?
Now, and we're going to stay in that same vein, because I liked how you pointed out that they've been sending out persons, because now we're seeing a number of interviews and they're blocking space on a morning on the programs and stuff. And there's a cry about mismanagement. And what I want us to highlight this evening is, again, as you said, the PNM's record is there for everyone to see. I don't think anyone in Tobago can question what has been done. We are hearing about mismanagement, but we've not been able to see or identify any document. And again, it is indicative of this administration's practice. We still have outstanding for the people of Tobago to benefit from an audit that was used, and we have to look at their record.
Well, that's the point. So you will recall this administration, and they did a good job at scandalizing the previous administration, but scandalizing what has been the result. You talked about a zip line. You are in office right now. What has been the result to show that there was malfeasance with the zip line? You had enough time to provide the evidence if there was wrongdoing, to cause an investigation and cause an outcome, and that has gone dead. You came with a lot of bravado about audit. About five audits. We did an FOI, and when, to my shock and amazement, as we speak, the chief ad in her response said they only had the results of only one audit. So then what did you audit? Where is the audit? What is happening? Yet you're holding that as some kind of stain on paper.
Yes.
When you have the opportunity to do what you have to do. Again, and I want to remind Tobagonians, look at the difference in administration. And that's what I'm saying. We have an opportunity to compare. So the PNM, when they came in, right in 2001. Let us step back a bit. I was a young man, still in just about in Form 5, but I followed the politics. And I recall the NER administration under Mr. Ochoy Charles, they did start a very ambitious development program. A lot of roads and bridges were being built at that time. They racked up a lot of debt. That was a fact. But what did Mr. London do when he came in? Mr. London didn't just say, I'll be bad mind and spiteful and wicked and just throw off people off of the projects and I would suffer them
not finish the projects
I believe that they would have gotten work under Mr. Charles and they are not worthy of payment. You know what he did? He decided that we will treat with these projects, we'll ensure that they are completed. One. So every project that was started under Mr. Ochoy Charles, when Mr. London came in, he ensured those projects were completed because ultimately the projects were done for the benefit of the people of Tobago. It's not Mr. Charles wasn't taking it home in his house. It was done for Tobagonians. And then he made sure, okay, so there's now debt to be paid because people worked. What we'll do is we are going to pay you for verifiable work. And once they went through that verification process, they then was able to identify what is the true value of the works outstanding. And in identifying the value of the works outstanding, they then now took that to the Minister of Finance, who was Gerard Yetming at the time. And they were able to sit down with that government to work out a payment plan. And so they were able to work that debt down, while at the same time, so they didn't halt their development program for Tobago, while at the same time pursuing an ambitious continued development program for Tobago. And that is why Mr. London was able to gain the favor of people who weren't even PNM at the time. And you would recognize the PNM grew from strength to strength. Because it was because governance is a continuum. And when you take up management of anything, you inherit, because it's not only debt, you inherit the assets and you inherit the liabilities. And a good manager would know, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the situation, you got to manage both. So you can't say, I want the assets, so I will take the unspent balances, the money that's in the contingency, but you see them that day, I don't want it, I'm not dealing with it. And that is the issue that is the difference in the type of management that we got in terms of transition from Mr. Charles to Mr. London, as opposed to Mr. Dennis demitting, and you claim that you inherited debt, and your response to that was to blacklist every contractor, scandalize their name. So you didn't care if they were good, bad, or ugly. Tobagonians at that, who were employing thousands of Tobagonians, and you deny them the opportunity to now participate in Tobago's economy. And in doing that, you went and find friends in Trinidad. So you put aside the Tobagonians and the debt. You don't care to pay them, so they are owing the banks and all of that. And you find your friends. And you find your friends to the point that you took every cent of our development, the 300 million you received,
spirited away,
and gave it to them, and spent it. And now all of Tobago continues to reel. And that is why I'm saying the question today is about this administration being accountable for the decisions that they have made that has taken Tobago from, in 2021, a GDP growth of 4% to a current GDP growth of negative 1%.
Minority Leader, this is the direction that a lot of people have been asking for. But we have a guest joining us, logging in this evening, and I want the director to, let's connect with him. Logging on to the program this evening, This direction that we're going in, and a lot of people have been calling for this explanation. And as we go into it a little further, there is a particular exercise. We talk about accountability, and you speak of having the administration account. There's a particular exercise that is supposed to follow after the budget debate is completed in the Parliament and Tobago receives its understanding of its allocation. That exercise is called the reprioritization. What has been happening with that? And we have him here this evening joining us, Senator Ansel Dennis, political leader. Yeah, I had to get it right. Senator Ansel Dennis, political leader of the People's National Movement Tobago Council. And I must add, fresh off your I-95 interview this evening, very, very informative. A lot of information packaged into that particular interview. And I hope that we would have the opportunity to repost some of that information. But thanks for joining us this evening, Senator. We were just entering the realm of the reprioritization exercise as we are on the topic of accountability. And it's an exercise which I think we've not seen this administration actually do. And one of the points I heard you made this evening, Senator, was that the PNM used to always come to the people and say, okay, this is what we asked for, but this is what we've gotten, and this is how we have to now appropriate this. Tell us a bit about this exercise and what we have seen replace this particular exercise now that is a total lack of accountability.
All right. Good evening, Marilyn. Good evening, Minority Leader, and the faithful listeners and viewers of this program across the country and the world. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. So we're talking budget, we're talking responsible leadership and management. During the period 2001 to 2021, for 20 years, the People's National Movement, Tobago House of Assembly, whether it was a UNC government or a PNM government, got somewhere between 4.03 to 4.37% of the national budget. And that always represented a shortfall of what the Tobago House of Assembly requested. The Tobago House of Assembly Act requires that by the end of June in every year, we submit a draft estimates and note the definition of draft estimates. We need to ask ourselves, what is a draft and what is an estimate, right? So the Tobago House of Assembly is treated no differently than ministries and agencies in Trinidad who are required to do the same. So once we submit that draft estimates as approved by the Tobago House of Assembly, then the Ministry of Finance, as part of its budgetary exercise, will allocate a certain amount of funding for the use of the Tobago House of Assembly. And that by law is required to be between 4.03 minimum and 6.8% maximum. So as long as the allocation is within that range, then there is no issue with the law. Now, following that, normally, once we get that allocation, when the budget is read, we go back to the Tobago House of Assembly, the legislature, and that, of course, is preceded by a period of planning where all the divisions, the secretaries, the administrators, and other technocrats will come together and reprioritize the funding, determine how we're going to spend the real allocation of the Tobago House of Assembly. And once we do that and we approve that new budget, we go back to the Tobago House of Assembly legislature and we engage in a second debate where we would have informed the people of Tobago, well, this is what we get. This is the real allocation, and this is how we propose to manage it, and this is what we intended to deliver with the actual allocation. We have not been seeing that from this particular administration, and there's a reason for that. There's a lack of leadership, there's a lack of direction, there's a lack of any real plan. It is really governance by VAPs, governance by emotions, governance by feelings, and governance by deals, right? And that is what we have taking place. So on this occasion, the administration in the THA requested, I think, $3.9 billion, which according to Farley Augustine was going to be 5.8% of a $65 billion budget that he predicted the central government was going to engage in. As expected, as has been the norm, and Farley knew this when he was in the opposition in 2021, he knew that from since Pochai Charles to then, the allocation was always within a very small margin of 4.3 to 4.37% thereabout. He knew then that it was, well, he suggested then that it was Sintan's case, it was madness to keep doing the same thing over and over. And he knew then that emphasis should really be placed on revenue generation and, of course, the autonomy process. Now we are seeing that the Farley Augustine, that is the chief secretary, is a totally different Farley. He has forgotten his initial promises. He has now distanced himself from all his initial stance that he took while he was not the chief secretary. And that is the kind of hypocrisy and the dishonesty that is passing for leadership, unfortunately. And interestingly, while the chief secretary was debating that very frivolous motion that was brought the Thursday before the budget, he lied. He told a blatant lie to the people of Tobago. Nothing new. But sometimes I wonder if this is a habit or a sickness. Sometimes I wonder what it really is, that the chief secretary will just lie in circumstances where the lie can be easily refuted, right? So he said in the House last Thursday, whenever it was, that we in the PNM, our grand solution is simply to pass the autonomy bills, right? But I want to remind the chief secretary that that was also his solution back in 2021, because he did suggest that we should be focusing heavily on the autonomy issue. And I agreed with that then, and that is still my stance and the PNM stance now, because those bills will give us a minimum allocation, and it's important to focus on minimum, because they're saying now hypocritically that the government could give 5.8% or up to 6.8% if they want. That may be so, but historically, which government ever gave 6.8%? Which government gave more than 4.37%? Right? So he knew his history back in 2021, but all of a sudden now he has forgotten his history. So
okay, we having a bit of trouble. Okay, you're back with us.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back now.
Right. Sometimes the internet in this area tends to be a bit unreliable. So he's claiming now that we don't need any autonomy bill, and even suggested that we rejected, the PNM rejected a Kamla Prasad Bisesa bill that guaranteed Tobagonians 8%. A lie, right? And I know we will play the clip shortly, but if anybody is to go back and pull up that bill because it is still available on the Parliament's website. You will realize that the bill proposed a minimum of 6.9%, and the 8% was actually the maximum. So the only difference, there are two significant differences there. The current bills before the House do not propose a maximum, right? So it could go as high as 10%, 11%, 12%. Kamla's bill proposed a maximum of 8%. The minimum in Kamla's bill was 0.1% better than what is being proposed now. 6.9% minimum. The minimum in these bills currently before the Parliament is 6.8%. Not much of a difference. And if you crunch the numbers, the difference will not exceed $100,000, I believe, right? So the other lie that the Chief Secretary told in the Tobago House of Assembly in that August House was that the current bills take away or took away or proposes to take away the 6 nautical miles currently in the Tobago House of Assembly Act 40 of 1996. Again, completely false. If people were to read the bill for themselves, you will realize that this bill before the Parliament now proposes an additional 5 nautical miles for a total of 11 nautical miles as the area of administrative responsibility for the Tobago Island government, right? So the Chief Secretary is just prepared to lie. He's just prepared to lie to the people of Tobago when it is convenient to him. I am calling on him to summon up the old folly from 2021, right? That same folly that responded to Joel Jack's budget, that same folly that believed that we should focus on autonomy. Summon up that folly and change your stance and support the 2 bills that are before Parliament. The 2 bills will guarantee 6.8% minimum. It is better than what we are getting now by far. As a matter of fact, if the bills will pass, you Farley would have gotten available to your government $4.06 billion, more than you even requested. Support the bills, Farley, because those bills will also allow your administration and any future administration the opportunity to pass laws on behalf of the people of Tobago. Currently, Farley, you cannot pass a law. In order for you to pass a law, you will have to debate a bill now in the THA, right? Then you will have to send that bill to the cabinet, and then the cabinet will get to determine if the bill goes to the Parliament. Under the new law, there will be no cabinet involvement. There will be no national parliament involvement. It will simply be the Tobago House of Assembly legislature and the president. And we all know the president does not have the power to refuse to pass any legislation. It is just a formality. So once the legislature in Tobago approves a law, the president will give assent, and then it becomes law in Tobago, right? Thirdly, in terms of your funding arrangements, you will realize that there is no maximum limit because there will be a fiscal review commission as proposed in the autonomy bills, and that fiscal review commission will have some serious responsibilities and some serious powers, one of which is to periodically review the Tobago House of Assembly's allocation. We already know that by law it cannot be less than 6.8%, but it can in fact be more based on the recommendations of the Fiscal Review Commission. We know you are very much hell-bent on getting the 200 nautical miles, Farley. We know this, right? But if you are honest and if you are fair, you will understand and accept that all the legal experts and all the maritime experts who were consulted on this issue by the Joint Select Committee agreed that it is not proper and it is not possible for Tobago to have its own exclusive economic zone. So my question to you, Farley, is this. Are you prepared to sacrifice your 6.8%, to sacrifice your lawmaking powers, to sacrifice all that is proposed in these bills, the additional responsibilities to govern, right? Proposals that will make your life far easier as a chief secretary. And we know you are hell-bent on giving away Tobago's money to your friends in Trinidad. So you'll have a lot more money to give away. Are you willing to sacrifice all of that because of the one issue that you didn't get your way with, the 200 nautical miles? What kind of negotiator are you? Which skilled negotiator does that? Which skilled negotiator gives up 90% because he didn't get the other 10%? Which skilled negotiator does that? So I'm appealing to the Chief Secretary to summon up the Farley of 2021, that honest Farley, that Farley that, well, I can't say he used to speak the truth. We just didn't know he was this liar until now. But summon up that old Farley and let your conscience be your guide and call on your UNC friends to support the two bills before the Parliament. We have 22 votes in the lower house. We have 15 votes, and I believe I can count on the vote of the Tobagonian independent senator. So we have 16 votes in the upper house, but we need more votes than that, Farley. And we know that you are bosom buddies with Kamlan, Rudal Munilal, and the other persons in the UNC. Please ask them to do right by the people of Tobago. Let's get this done now. Let's pass these bills now. We have been at it for 20 years, and that is long enough, Farley. Do right to your generation, at least on this occasion.
Senator, the last couple of minutes has been highly educational. I think that has been an in-depth expose, as it were, of what the bill accounted to, what it provides for. And I think there's no one who would have listened to this that is in a position now that they don't understand what these bills afford us here in Tobago. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we're going to continue along this trajectory, going a little deeper into the information. Having now understood what the bills provide for, let us try to find out what is the reason why we are having so much challenges from this administration. Simply saying to Tobago, this is what we spent with what it is we would have gotten, and let us come together now and try to work with what it is we have, instead of building smoke screens. So we're going to be right back. We're going to pay some bills, and when we get back, we continue this discussion.
Tobago Carnival is just around the corner, and Bethel Credit Union has you covered. Whether you're prepping for costumes, parties, giveaways, or a staycation, it's all within your reach with our Carnival loan sale. For as little as $900 a month, yes, $900 a month, you can get the funds you need to make this Carnival season unforgettable. At Bethel Credit Union, we're here to make your celebration dreams a reality. Visit us today or call 639-8226 for more information. Normal lending criteria applies, because we see you at BCU.
Good morning, good morning, put a smile on your
Tell them I can't do even bother calling me. Tell tell them I gone. I said tell them I gone. Don't even bother calling me. Tell them.
Oh yeah. I said I can't wait for Tobago in October.
Embark on an adventure to the greatest little island on the planet. Tobago invites you to ritual, revelry, and release.
Whining in the Bago sun, having Bago fun, in Bago drinking rum. We go jump up and carry on.
From October 25th to the 27th, 2024, experience the energetic vibe, the vibrant colors, and the unforgettable spirit of the Tobago Carnival.
Down here in Tobago.
Whether you're tripping down the road or marveling at the beauty and creativity of our artisans, Tobago Carnival is an adventure.
I said I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait for Carnival to come. So I call all my friends, making my plans for the Tobago Carnival fun.
Join us for ritual, revelry, and release. Tobago Carnival 2024, where every moment is memorable.
I said I can't wait for Tobago in October.
Swap done. Track 7. Tobago, have a plan.
Let me go now. Yes.
Yes.
Let me go.
If you want life in the islands, come through Tobago. Come through Tobago. Escape Tobago. If you want vibes in the islands, come through Tobago. Come through Tobago. Escape Tobago. Wanted this all of my life. One place with all of my life. So everything that I need is all on the island. You can come in, stay more than a while. So go catch your friends, bring something, and pack up your bag, let's go. If you're looking elsewhere, na 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 na. If you're going elsewhere, na na na. Run out.
Hey, the biggest and sexy.
Now here what's going on. You see the section? It makes me feel to move. You know why? It's called Pina Colada. I like Pina Colada.
Oh. For angels to get them crave for, they really need it too. When you play with
oh my goodness, and as the name says, it is as creamy as it's sweet.
You never wanna leave, cause the drinks them running for throw. Gonna really feel a vibe every time you start right down on a band like this, man, it's nothing like this, not you be like you. For angels, me say something and nobody like you. And every single time we touch, you know I never stop.
This is Pina Colada, something nice with a little bit of spice, and of course, not once, but we're gonna do it twice.
Gotta cruise, make the border.
We are on the road with Pina Colada. Boom, boom.
And folks, we are back right here on the Minority Report, joining us again today, and seeing that we're in the CPL season, the batting lineup. Let me take the opportunity to welcome Mr. Kwesi Devines to the conversation. No stranger to the Minority Report, as a matter of fact, to the media in all of Tobago. How are you, sir?
Good evening. Thanks, Marilyn. It's good to be back on the Minority Report. Good evening to the minority leader, the hardworking minority leader, and all of Tobago, all of the followers on social media. I know that Tobago updates had an unfortunate circumstance recently, so it's good to still see that the following is picking up and the comments are there. So kudos to the team at Tobago Updates.
Nicely. I know we still have Senator Dennis on, and so we continue in the conversation this evening. We would have had a comprehensive breakdown of the autonomy bill, what is afforded to Tobago and that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of clarity on that. Where there's some ambiguity, and up to today someone asked the question, people do not understand where has 7.5 billion gone. We saw a number of road works that occurred. Some started off as emergency works for 2022 Carnival that have not yet been completed. We saw that. We saw a roundabout come about that is still where we can't explain the shape of it yet, but it is present. Where has this money gone? Where are the projects that represent this? We see a number of projects throughout Tobago unfinished. We know Bacalet, Charlottesville, Goodwood. Help us to understand what we're looking at.
And I'm thankful that you brought me in on that point, because I was listening to Senator Dennis, the PL, really break down the bill. So I don't want to get into that. But what I really want to put into context, because I spoke about leakages before, but even I want to roll back a bit more. Any government, anyone in charge of the administration, the responsibility is the development of the island and the country. That's the agenda. And PNM had that agenda for 20 to 21 years. Whether some the detractors want to say we did nothing, that was our agenda, and we did a fantastic job at it. And I say fantastic without fear of contradiction, because if you look at the track record of the PNM, and I said when you start talking about developing an island like Tobago, we look at first the development of its people. The PNM focus a lot on capacity building of the people of Tobago. If you look at education, we developed more secondary schools so that there were more secondary school places. We converted the youth camp to THTI, so there was a greater focus because we recognize the importance of tourism. So there's a lot of tourism education, greater access to trade through NESC, partnerships with NAC, MIC, YTEP, and so on. We went further because there was dollar for dollar. The PNM in Trinidad made it, under Patrick Manning made it GATE. And the PNM went further to say, hey, on top of GATE, young people of Tobago, we can now give you financial assistance, which of course is a challenge now, but we will get into that afterwards. And many members of this current executive benefited from that financial assistance to tertiary level students. And the proof of the eating is in the proof of the pudding is in the eating. We moved from a situation where less than 5% of our labor force had tertiary level education in 2001 to a situation in 2021 where over 30% had exposure to tertiary level education. And so you saw the investment in education. When you then look at the holistic well-being, and we talk about I say holistic deliberately, because some people say health, but we don't want to limit to just the two hospitals that the PNM built. We don't want to limit to just the health centers that the PNM built and operationalized. I want to go further to say that there was a healthy sense of community life because of the multi-purpose centers that were built, because of all the playing fields that were lit. Before the PNM, we all played basketball in the road. Shore Park was really where the basketball court is. We now had basketball courts, tennis courts in almost every community, so many communities. So we're looking now at the holistic well-being, because you need to now develop the individual and the community. So now that we see where the PNM invested in all of these things, and on top of that, in order for our people not to be drawers of water and hewers of wood, the PNM also invested in a land bank. So Pigeon Point Estate and all of the Friendship Estate, you listed, the PNM went ahead and purchased all of these estates. So development to the people, capacity building, we talk about the holistic well-being, health, everything else, and then the land bank. All of these things were laid out on a platform. And then we went further and said, you know what, let's now provide opportunity. And opportunity through the business development unit, opportunity through EADCUT for light manufacturing, and all of the other assistance that was given to venture capital, all of those things that were put in place by the PNM. Why? Because there was actually a vision for the development of Tobago. And then that vision, we said, listen, we now want to push Tobago to the next level. We have educated people, we have built capacity, we have built businesses. And let's partner with central government, let's get a new airport. Let's get hotels, so that now the industry of tourism could have now been a driver, just lift off the rising tide floats all boats. It would have helped agriculture, transportation, you name it, so that everything was together in a plan. Now, could you say that the PNM got enough funds? No. Before I forget, and I don't want to forget it, the PNM also built housing developments in Renaissance, Adventia, Belgarden, Blenheim, provided housing. Castara. So all of if you looked at Maslow's hierarchy, if you want to go there, the basic needs were met. And now as we start going up to the higher, to even self-actualization, where we want to be, the PNM was saying, let's diversify, because some of our detractors are probably too young to remember But I remember asking my mother in my teens, how come you don't buy for us apples and grapes? And she said, well, I thought you didn't like them because in my youth, we could not, there's a ban on the import. There's a ban on the import of apples and so on. And in the late 80s, when we went through, the oil prices went down, actually the Tobago tourism industry was the thing that buoyed the Trinidad and Tobago economy. And could you imagine, in 2005, under the PNM, is still recorded as the highest international arrival figures in our history in Tobago, as taken in numbers. And then, of course, we went from 2005, there were many shocks, SARS, global recession. So there were shocks that impacted on us. But the fact is that the PNM had a clear plan. And that plan was manifesting itself, and we're seeing it in the airport that is being developed. And we were looking at Sandals and Marriott because there was a plan. And I'm saying all of this, you're wondering, where does this fit into the budget? This fits into the budget because this administration doesn't have to worry about building schools. This administration doesn't have to worry about providing educational opportunities. They don't have to worry about many of those things that the PNM already laid the foundation. Silver platter. And so now their job was to pick it up and say, let's run with it. Like, what was it? The soca artist said, run with it. But they have dropped it. Tobago's economy has dropped. It has broken. It has fallen apart. It is like Humpty Dumpty, and it will take the PNM again to put it back together. Because we are in a serious position now where businesses are suffering and crying. And I heard the political leaders speak to it. Where our tertiary level students can't get assistance. Where our businesses can't get assistance, they can't even get jobs. At one time, any road resurfacing in Tobago was done by Trinidad contractors. We built the capacity to where, when I left office, there were, I think, 7 or 8 people with the capacity to pave roads in Tobago. We have gone back to a place where we're using Trinidadians. We were paying $1,200 a metric ton for asphalt. We have gone to a place where we're paying Trinidadian contractor 24, 28, 27. I don't want to be like $2,700 a metric ton for something that Tobagonians are very capable of.
And they call 1,200 corrupt.
And they call 1,200 corrupt. And so the point I'm making is that the PNM had a plan. The PNM was working the plan. And this administration is just like you're going into a home, your grandmother say, you know what, son, or my grandson, I'll gift you a home. You don't have to worry about mortgage again. Mortgage covered. Granny used to pay her light bill and utilities. You don't have to worry about those things again. Everything nice. The house fenced, the roof not leaking, everything good. You got the house, and what you're doing is you start a fete. You start a throw party, you're traveling up and down the place, you don't even have time to pay the bills again. Because you're traveling up and down the place. So checks bounce. So there must be a shortage. There must be a shortage because your priorities are, as they say, mixed up. Your priorities mixed up, and I don't know who is going to be the adult in this administration to pick somebody by the ears and twist the ears and say, focus and get the job done.
Minority Leader, based on what Kwesi just said, I love how you broke it down. Lead us off with that, and then we go back to Senator Dennis.
No, well, Kwesi put everything in a nutshell there, and this is where I think we need to take away the emotional, and this administration, they're very good at evoking emotions because they would say the things that they believe would rile Tobagonians up. So they're wicked, as my political leader said. They're wicked. They like to sing the wicked, and everybody wicked. And when you look, because there's another issue I noticed now. We have the carnival coming up. You have absolutely no budget. So nobody. It's the first time I see you are having an event and you don't even know what you plan to spend.
But wasn't that the case before? Some of the budget used to come out late.
Well, it
gets worse now.
Now we're here, we don't even know. And we are being told we have to wait for budget to pass for we to know what the budget is. You know what I'm saying? No, we're moving from the dotish to the ridiculous. I
don't know which one is
which one worse.
And so you have that happening. You didn't market for the whole year. But in October, you paint up a bus and you're driving around marketing.
In Tobago.
In
Tobago.
Right? And when you speak, you had no proper relationship, no proper plan to bring international arrivals because you didn't.
So the boat not coming again?
So So you fall long on that, and now you're trying to shape the narrative by blaming Cal. So you want again to blame this. So when when you don't get the kind of international arrivals that you should be getting because that is why you put on festivals, festival tourism, and anything. We're not keeping domestic Aborudi, because if you're talking about Cal, it means that all you catering for is trying to bring Trinidadians, and that becomes another Borodi. But if you're keeping a carnival, it is an international festival where you're leveraging to attract tourists from your various source markets outside. And because you know you're failing miserably at that, you're trying to change the conversation to a conversation about Cal not having enough flights to bring Trinidadians, and then you want to say all you're too wicked again. And that to me, again, is one way you're going on the emotional, because we know we in Tobago, we believe that we should have a plane, always taxi, waiting for us for whenever time.
One more.
One to go. Just jump on the plane and it should take us to and from. So we know that is a conversation would always rile up people, and there again, you recognize you're not using factual information, because Grenada has carnival. Grenada doesn't even have the luxury of having 10 Cal fights bring people from Trinidad to Grenada. But yet Grenada has thousands and thousands of people flying in.
And Trinidadians as well.
Trinidadians, people from all the diaspora coming in. New York, Miami, all over. And therefore, the question is about access and your ability to attract international airlines. What is the data? Under the PNM, we had about 8 international flights flying directly into A&R Robinson. And we have to ask the question now, what is that number? I know of British Airways, and I think they has reduced. They used to do twice weekly. They have reduced to 1.
Wow.
Condor is during the winter season only. Well, you have Caribbean Airlines coming in from New York. They terminated the Virgin contract. So as far as I know, we have an international airport, and a beautiful one at that building, and this hapless, hopeless, clueless, and they telling people Cal has no flights, and watch the evidence to Tobagonians. So you see how I tell you about the emotional.
This is why
you have a young man who is the brother of the secretary trying to tell me to get Cal to bring more flights, and look the facts.
What?
Look the facts online.
Flight.
Everybody can
Thursday
see.
flight, Saturday flight, Tuesday flight, Sunday flight. But you have them trying to create a narrative.
None
Cal is to blame. So when Cal is to blame, why they...
And if you check the ferries, there are ceilings available on every day of the week for that carnival, except perhaps the Friday, I think.
They're too wicked.
So you have ceilings and flights
so Friday is sold out. So Friday, so we should get about 50 flights on Friday.
Yeah, so bring all the jets, because cancel all your New York flights. So all
50 flights Friday.
Cancel everything else and just load up.
Cal have planes park up just waiting at the beck and call. I don't know why our people could be so unreasonable.
Unreasonable.
We know that these folks are majoring on emotionalism.
Yeah, that is what.
And we are cautioning Tobago. Senator, weighing on this with us here.
Now, let me tell you something. I am not one who get carried away with emotions and all of that. As much as I'm a Tobagonian, And as much as I am biased towards Tobago and our plight, I'm a very practical and pragmatic person. And as a leader, I ought to be, right? Because you wouldn't see me jumping on a bandwagon with Watson Duke to swim to Tobago. And now that they have office, they don't even want to eat with Watson. They don't want to even have a meal with Watson Duke or even a drink. But I just say, man, they were willing to jump into the water with strong currents and shark to talk about the swimming to Tobago to protest a broken sea bridge, one that we knew could not be fixed overnight because you can't go and pick up a ferry from a supermarket shelf, one that we knew was mismanaged under the previous administration that caused the ferries, because of poor maintenance and because of aging, to give endless problems all of a sudden. Now, let's talk about Carnival and all the talk that is going around. The responsibility and the blame needs to be placed squarely on the shoulders of the Secretary of Tourism. Because if you are planning an event such as Carnival, and they used to talk a lot about jazz, I remember we got criticism for not marketing jazz effectively, but as far as I know, jazz used to be marketed internationally and locally well in advance of the festival. We have not had any serious marketing of our Carnival. As you all said earlier, all of a sudden, the week before or 2 weeks before, we have a bus in Tobago, branded Tobago Carnival, driving about the place with people pretending to be marketing Carnival to Tobagonians, right? Because you can't be marketing to anybody else but Tobagonians using that approach. We do not know at this time the budget for Carnival. Just imagine that. The Secretary of Tourism cannot tell us the budget for Carnival. And now, 2 weeks before the event, we are talking about flights and trying to blame Cal for a situation that does not exist. As we speak, there are flights available to get to Tobago on that specific week, maybe except for 1 day or 2 days in the week. There are sailings available for persons to get to Tobago. And I am sure that leading up to this point, the demand did not outstrip the supply of seats. So the expectation is that Cal will just pull aircraft from profitable routes to expand the capacity in a situation where the demand is not there. And I saw a fellow Tobagonian commenting about American Airlines having a flight, I can't remember if she said every day or every week, going into Dominica for the air festival. I am sure that is based on demand, because Dominica does not have the luxury of a national carrier prepared to fly heavily subsidized into the destination. That is a business decision, and therefore American Airlines is flying there based on demand and based on profitability. They're going to make a profit out of it. And therefore the question to this secretary and her administration is, why did we mismanage this event to the extent that we were not able to create the demand early enough so that by now, Cal would have been able to predict a heavier demand and therefore allow for a greater supply of seats? Because had we marketed effectively, then I can assure you that months in advance, maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago, or even 6 months ago, seats would have been sold out completely. And then Cal could have said, based on the forecast, we can add 2 or 3 more additional flights for the day. But you don't just hop and pull aircraft and add flights without the available demand. That is not how any serious airline operates.
Where's the flights that we were promised? I recall in June, at as the chief secretary was winding up his final budget presentation, he told us as early as in a month's time, which should have been July. there would be
new
there
flight.
would be a major announcement.
That was pure lies and foolishness. Because which private airline will come to fly the air bridge between Trinidad and Tobago at a rate similar or less than what Caribbean Airlines is offering? Which airline? Obviously, if they're coming to fly, it will be more expensive because they have to turn over profit. They're not being supported by any government. It is not being subsidized in any way. So they will have to turn over a profit, right? And if you already have CAL supplying a certain amount of seats, and we don't even have the demand to outstrip that supply, then which airlines coming here? So that was a total lie, I am sure. And in addition to that, we have to remember that this chief secretary also promised on national television that there will be a sailing from Grenada to Tobago and return in time for the 2022 October Carnival. We are in 2024. And interestingly, nobody in the Port Authority, not even the minister, knew what the chief secretary was talking about. So it appears that we have a chief secretary. Once you put him to sit and you dress him up nice and you put a mic in front of his mouth, he just opens his mouth and tells blatant lies. Lies that can easily be refuted. Right? So I'm calling on this administration to do better with the next carnival. 2022 has gone, 2023 has gone, 2024, well, they can't do anything at this point. We have to do better with our next carnival. We have to market it earlier, right? We have to invest in the marketing of the event. And once you market it well, and you manage it well, and you have a good, attractive product, guess what? People will book. The seats will sell out way in advance. And then once that happens, only then can you make a case with Caribbean Airlines to put on more flights on the domestic route. And let me say this as well. If we had sandals, right? If people didn't operate selfishly and foolishly, following Watson Duke and Farley and his foolishness, if we had sandals here, then automatically, just like it's happening with St. Vincent right now, we would have had a tremendous number of seats being sold internationally for destination Tobago. Whether it be the United Kingdom, Europe, the USA, we would have had more international flights coming to the destination. And therefore, what we would have gotten out of Trinidad would have just been bonus. But no, we run sandals, right? We quietly trying to undermine the Marriott. That is what they're doing as part of this administration, because they believe that anything comes from the PNM does not suit their political agenda, and therefore they should undermine it. They were even trying to undermine the airport.
Correct.
They were even trying to undermine the airport. Right? So had we had sandals, we would have been struggling now to find sufficient room stock to put people on this island for Carnival. Right? And then, of course, jazz. They pulled the plug on jazz on an island that where we have long agreed that a significant part of our tourism offering is our festivals. They pull the plug on jazz. So they pull the plug on jazz. They are mismanaging the October Carnival. They have destroyed the Tobago Heritage Festival, right? At least some of the main events are no longer on the calendar. I'm hoping that they return next year. And well, they are deliberately sabotaging the February Carnival. And then days before Blue Food, in front of the venue, you have a swimming pool.
A man going you own Blue Food, I see a man full of soccer from
and the platforms are still there untouched.
Untouched.
Project that started
before 2 years ago.
So everywhere you turn, whether it's our agriculture, our construction sector, our tourism, or festivals, these people are undermining and mismanaging our affairs in Tobago. The same group of people who are all over the place screaming, let me fix this, let me fix this, let me fix this, let me fix this. They have fixed nothing so far but themselves.
I was told by a colleague of mine that she's afraid that next year there will be no Easter.
That's a possibility. That is a strong possibility. Because they have this idea in their head that Tobago people must not spend Tobago money in. Because their attitude, no, I'm serious, their attitude towards the practitioners of our culture and creativity linked to our Heritage Festival is that we only giving you all, I can't remember the paltry sum. The attitude towards the Lekoto group was we only giving you all $100,000 and you all have to do the logistics, the stage, the lighting and everything, which was totally impossible.
Yeah.
But you know what is sad to as well, Chief? When you compare that, so you don't want to support the carnival, you don't want to support the band leaders, you don't want to who have to create the mass, you don't want to support the pan, you don't want to support the calypso. But you take off with about 100 people and spend over about $2 million and counting.
As far as they are concerned, Tobago's money is for them and their friends to enjoy and for their contractors and business partners coming out of Trinidad. When it comes to communities and community groups, the money is not for them. When it comes to Tobago businesses, is blacklists, no contracts, and if you get a contract, you're taking more than a year, close to 2 years to get paid.
Look, I met with a former worker of infrastructure, apparently medical issue, amputated leg, and went to social services. So you hear them, she's paying her rent, can't afford to pay the rent. And I'm thinking to myself, what do we have to support somebody like this? Where's the conversation on this? And then I said, but they mentioned something about these homes, this effort. And I was told that by now we should have had so many homes so that persons like that, when they go to social services, will be able to get the support. And to my amazement, I'm asking the question, where are the homes? What they call home, something made
affordable.
Oh yeah, some what is
some made up name.
Even before you get to homes, where's the basic social support?
That's it.
Where's the food support? Where's the rental support program? Where's the food cards? They wanted to hang Clarence Jacob and others for giving out hundreds of food cards during the pandemic. Now, the number of persons reaching out to me, and I'm not even in office in the THA, reaching out to me, can't, lost their job because of the actions of this administration, security firm lost contract, sent them home, contractors lost business, sent home their child father, right? So no support, can't pay their rent, facing the streets, gone to health, the Division of Health run by Faith Be Israel, and months, no support, not even a food card, right? At the mercy of a landlord to be thrown in the streets and no kind of support. And there are several cases like that.
And again, you go to social support, and again, and power, as the Calypso Karina, she said, poverty is no excuse for crime. But you putting persons in to choose.
Yeah.
Because when you're in a desperate situation, you make irrational decisions.
Yes.
I saw a video of a young man cutting the bush, the pasture, as they call it in
Goodwood.
I mean, these kind of things are ridiculous because Charlottesville, they don't have access to the field in a proper way. Goodwood, same thing. And I mean, you wonder when you take away, because that's what you're doing, you are taking away the opportunities are again the holistic wellness I spoke about earlier for young people, for people in Tobago, the support that they had. You have taken it away. What options are you leaving for Tobago?
Exactly.
And businesses are failing. So you can't even say, let me go and try to get a work in a business place. So the public sector has sent home people unceremoniously. As long as they consider you, if you look red, if you probably had on a red jersey or a red and white jersey, then you can't get a job here. They're selling your home, firing you. You can't get food support. You can't get housing support. You can't get any of those things. You can't go and play football. You can't go and sweat again. What are you leaving for Tobagonians?
Exactly. And the discussion is
sometimes you really just wonder how they just feel. Like especially reps driving from the east, coming to town to go work and then driving back. And you've seen a field there 3 years. And you just passing that along and that and telling you as a representative something must be done.
Right. So let's envision the chief secretary. The furthest easterly electoral district belongs to him. So he would leave Charlottesville on a particular day. He will pass the unfinished community center where a Tobago contractor was hired to do that job and the project was stopped. He will pass on his way down Turpin Bend, where a Tobago contractor was contracted to do that job and it was stopped. He will make his way down to Goldsboro, right? Where a Tobago contractor was doing work there to establish an agro-processing factory and it was stopped. Right after that, he will pass Goodwood, where a Tobago contractor was engaged there, engaging even young men from the community to build the pavilion for the people of Goodwood, especially the young people, right? That was stopped. Again, another Tobago contractor, right? He will come all the way down to Bacolet, where another project, a Tobago contractor engaged and pursuing Tobago's people's business in a particular way, stopped again by his administration. No explanation, no justification, no reason. And on the way down as well, I forgot to mention, if he veers off into any little corners, he will pass some agriculture access roads that were ongoing again, all of them being done by the Tobagonian businesses that were stopped. Do these people have a conscience? They're seeing it every day. How could you pass those projects, seeing Tobago people being denied opportunities, both from the business side of things and even from the community aspect in terms of people benefiting from those completed facilities, and your conscience isn't telling you that we should put some of the resources to restart and complete those projects? Especially you are a chief secretary from Speyside, Tobago East. The deputy chief secretary is from Goodwood, Tobago East. And you all are inflicting this kind of pain on the people of Tobago East. So many unfinished projects with no excuse. And the only thing you could point to, your big accomplishment is it probably reached $100 million by now. $100 million roundabout, where every time you pass, you have to thank God that you don't get into an accident. It's the first roundabout where, when you're coming out of Sherburne and you make the left, you're wondering if you're supposed to go straight, or if you're supposed to follow the S and go left. What is that? And they had an example down in Hawkins too.
It's a wrong about.
Yeah, it's not wrong about. It's a wrong about.
It's a wrong about.
WRONG.
Yeah.
Even when you're coming from Scarborough and going to Crown Point, you could also see the misalignment going down there. And somebody built that, and somebody went and cut a ribbon, and somebody's going to hand $50 million to a contractor from Trinidad sometime next week. And the project is not even completed.
But where the Tobago pride look, and when you enter, we're coming from the Crown Point side, and there's a piece on the left.
Yeah.
Where they just put some barrels,
concrete barriers,
some barrel. Like, the thing's so and I'm saying, where is the pride? If this is something you're calling as your legacy project, you wouldn't make sure you do it in such a way, at least that people have no standards. You bring everything right down to the ground.
And they have the audacity to associate James Bigart and Jeff Davidson with that project. Well, I can't say Pam Nicholson because she approved that. She was most present. But I'm sure James Bigart and Jeff Davidson turning in their grave because the names have been associated with this madness.
Nonsense.
This has to be the worst roundabout. The worst roundabout in the world.
The director is on my throat tonight, folks. We always start to build up steam when it's time to wrap. But next week we continue the discussions. Senator, as well, we trust that you will be available as well for the discussion, because we still have to tell Tobago persons what actually was spent on what. What are the projects that this administration invested in, so that they can see real time, this is where their priorities were. You know, so I really want to thank you guys for being part of the discussion. Persons have been messaging. People are actually saying they were not aware that some of these things actually existed. You know, so we will continue the discussion next Tuesday. Thanks for logging in. I want to thank the director for giving us the grace of an additional 10 minutes. Senator, you want to close with saying something? I see you. You keep leaning into the camera. Very quickly.
Senator, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'll just end by saying, you know, as you mentioned, in terms of how Tobago's money is being spent, I think one thing, if it is worth it, one thing Tobagonians could possibly benefit from is the airline miles being built up by this administration. I don't know how we're going to work it out, but if we could try to make some arrangement where the people of Tobago can benefit from the significant miles that is being generated by this, if we could convert it to cash, I am sure it will be something to go into the treasury.
Thanks for that closing remark. So guys, really appreciate the information shared tonight. Folks, we want to thank you all for continuing to log into the Minority Report and being a part of the conversation. Stay tuned. We will be back next week with even more information as we continue to expose the greatest deception. Have a wonderful evening and stay blessed.